Alright,
Okay,
let's see
the first
what
order of
Bentley
business
needs
is
for us to
getting
do.
Tennessee his guns back.
Well, it's just the one gun now. I upgraded. But yeah, I need my shooting iron
Yeah,
back.
see, at this point, it's been upgraded so that you only need
Toothpick
one
closed this
cane.
old gold mine several months ago, declaring it unsafe. In fact, he's converted it to a storage facility for his stolen goods, including Tennessee's gun. We'll need to take measures with this job so as not to arouse suspicion. So, employing a masterful disguise, I'll tail Toothpick to the mine's entrance and mark it with a homing beacon. Murray, you'll then use the beacon to find your way there. Toothpick's sure to
I will give the game
entrance,
this. It is nice how they do extend the disguises to, like, you know, the other guys.
Characters, yeah.
Outside of, you know, just that one-time mission from Sly Cooper 2, so kudos.
Okay, I need to keep up with this guy. I better stay close, but out of direct sight.
Yeah, this is another type of mission where you just need to stake out the villain while we just walk around. The thing about Toothpick from the bio that you heard is that he is kinda has of a temper. So you cannot be too sure to just, you know, stay close to him. Always have an obstacle that you know, is blocking the view from you and him.
Never underestimate a guy who literally always has his gun drawn.
I get the idea that this is supposed to reflect the fact that armadillos tend to be actually potentially they react very violently to sudden stuff, so there is that.
It's funny, most people know armadillos to be defensive.
Okay, I forgot which specific type, but there is one that in order for, as a response, can jump really high, which, as Z Frank told in his True Facts about armadillos, you know, can safeguard you from absolutely nothing.
And yet they still do it.
Sometimes evolution is kind of cruel, Joe. I will give you tools that you absolutely don't need to, and tell you that's a great thing to do.
Well, it's not so much that, though. It's more the physical traits you get via biological evolution depends on the environment you're in.
Well, no. Tio does have a point. There are sometimes where evolution does do some freaky stuff, regardless of stuff here and there. Like, regardless of the environment, sometimes there will be a freak evolutionary thing where, oh, you can jump high.
Sometimes it's the animal who just decides to do whatever the fuck they want, like the koala, you know, because the eucalyptus has made pretty much clear they don't want to be eaten, but they still sure gonna do it.
Nobody's going to find this entrance. Time to take a little look at my gold.
Also, again, props to David Lodge, because once again, this is completely out of his normal comfort zone, but it surprisingly works well. Ah, Giant Scorpion.
I see he gave it the T-virus.
Not a fan of Scorpion?
I thought he was going to get hit by that train.
It's kind of like spiders here, right?
Oh.
With the difference that they can be more dangerous. So now, turret section.
That's the thing. Scorpions are a natural enemy of the spiders. So, yes, you're right. Scorpions are something that even spiders are.
Despite this, I kind of like the game Deadly Creatures for the Wii, and I really wish THQ Nordic, since they now own the IP, could make a remaster of it in full capacity. Because it works surprisingly. It's a game that the old THQ did publish for the Wii, where you control alternatively a tarantula and a spider, and it works kind of like your typical, like God of War like game, just applied to these kind of creatures. So it's very interesting to see how they adapt it, but with this kind of smaller scale in a more quote-unquote realistic way. It's more of a watching a you know, those kind of documentaries that when it's like the BBC makes them, and when they actually get exported in America, they add all the you know, dramatic sound effects to make them more, I guess, entertaining. It's kind of like a video game version of that, for how much it makes sense. Anyway, time to enter. There you go. Actually, no. First hacking. with the turtle shell. But let me talk of what I was saying before. In yet another display of managing to make things work out, Peter McConnell works surprisingly well with, you know, Western type of music scores.
Yeah, it's like I said, while a lot of this game's levels don't resonate with me as well, this is definitely one of the better thought out ones. Like, you know, the theming is all there, the villain holds up well, the ancestor here is a pretty fun one, and yeah, even the costume used here, while at first it seems like one of the lesser fun ones, does have at least, you know, the ball and chain stuff for higher mobility at times.
Also, this third version of the vehicle has less damaging projectiles, but to compensate that they bounce off walls, and you also have these charging laser move that you can, you know, there you go, press and hold the R2 button and then draw a circle. There we go. Again, the hacking minigames tend to evolve from now on in order to showcase a bit more variety between these. So again, compared to the rest of the trilogy, they are, you know, basically the best version.
Which is your favorite hacking form?
This one. Like I said, the more time passes, the more I'm kinda growing into the classic type of shooters. But to be fair, the alter ego section can work just as fine.
I was asking which form of the hacker machine.
I guess this one. The bouncing projectiles make things more fun, and you have to manually calculate the trajectory, so there is a bit of thinking involved. The circling laser doesn't completely work as intended, to be honest, in a sense that, yes, it is fine, but you need to draw a perfect shape, and you don't really have a big you know, stamina bar to do that. Not to mention, if you actually get hit at any point doing the circle, while you're in the circle, you have to restart all over again. So it's the one that got a bit, you know, that could have been reworked just a bit, but I still do enjoy it. Because, I mean, the green one is just basic, so not really much to say, and the pink one is strictly for, you know, high demolishing stuff, and I prefer when things are slightly, you know, not completely slow. Hexagon by hexagon. Yeah.
There's one thing I can say positively about this game, is that in spite of it being, what was it, 8 years since the last one, the voice actors are still up for it.
Like I said, they do sound like they never left, technically, despite everything, so that's pretty neat. And they kept mentioning in interviews, those are the roles that essentially consecrated them in was their favorites. And like I mentioned before also, you have to remember that aside from having an additional voice, which I read, what was it, in Lightning Returns, Bentley's voice actor hasn't done anything since this game. That's kinda sad. Kevin Miller, I think, has done other stuff, but I haven't checked in a while, actually. Let's see.
Yes, a data key.
Don't drop it like that Team Rocket guy dropped the thingy, the left key.
Okay, to be fair, okay, it's not that much, but Kevin Miller has done a bit of, you know, minor NPCs, particularly in Dynasty Warriors 9, so there is that.
Security, thy game is hacked.
Lovely.
Awesome, Murray. Okay, Tennessee, you're up.
Shoot, I'll be in and out quicker than a hyperactive rattlesnake.
Just hurry up, man.
Yeah, pretty much. The Murray also, yeah, of course we had to do it.
Indiana Jones reference.
The Murray is strong, but you know, he still has his limits. Alright, now it's time to actually basically have a taste and start playing properly with Tennessee. Which, remember what I said in the previous part, we need to, like I said, of all the ancestors, he's the one that's basically the most broken for a simple reason. His cane doubles as a gun. Well, again, it sounds very simple if I say that, but that legitimately is a game changer for this kind of genre.
Honestly, he was the smartest of the Coopers when you get down to it. Like, yes, of course it makes sense. Make your cane double as a secondary weapon, one that can also be not only used to unlock certain things, but, well, yeah, take stuff out from a distance, and holy cow, it's a very, very powerful gun.
Alright, like I said, the one thing that changes between the Ancestors and Sly is what the triangle attack does. In this case, for Tennessee, it allows him to shoot at projectiles in the general direction that he points to, or to fire at the ground in order to create an aerial attack. Again, they get pretty creative in how they do. But Tennessee also has a special power of his own with the stamina. Ryoichi might have been, to jump properly on between Ninja Spire, but Tennessee is straight. First of all, you can just aim in normally with, there you go, L1 and R1, classic shooter skills for normal shooting. But Tennessee has essentially what's the term? The high noon, kind of like time freezing bullet shooting mechanic that games like Red Dead Redemption and Overwatch used.
Bullet time.
Yeah, I guess that's the term.
But yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, Tennessee I'd say is arguably the most fun ancestor to play as. Like, you can really mix up a lot of the gameplay with his cane and the gun here and there. You're not supposed to shoot that.
No, not just. It's not even that, and also it's not supposed to hit it.
Close anyway.
One hit from the dynamite and I'm dead. So there you go.
Again, do it like Resident Evil. Do it from a distance. But yeah, like I said, Tennessee is. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. He's the most fun ancestor to play as. Like, again, his gameplay works fine, but it's essentially Sly Cooper with a gun.
Oh, there we go. We're about to have a demonstration.
Is going to require my crack shot technique. First, I press and hold the R2 button to enter crack shot mode. Next, I can use the right stick to move the cursor and draw a bead on
what are these buttons and R2 buttons I'm on about?
The cane is very technologically advanced.
It's not even that. It's, well, okay, I guess it can be worked with that, but there's also the fact that Bentley equips all the Ancestors as soon as they meet him with the binocular comm, which allows them to, to have a bit more data. There you go. What was the other technique that Tennessee was famous for was the rail grinding, and this is reflected that he can jump with a simple button between each rail.
This is a nice throwback to Sly Cooper 3, so kudos.
But even the first one, remember that when Sly learned the technique from the Thieves Raccoons, he did describe how Tennessee was able to do this kind of shit. So actually seeing it in action makes sense. As long as you don't electrocute yourself.
That is another thing I do like about Tennessee Cooper. In regards to, how he's treated in the story, he is definitely one of the better respected ancestors here, to the point where they apparently pay mind to continuity. So this is why I'm baffled when the story does stuff that blatantly contradicts the past stuff. They clearly did do their research in some places, so what the hell happened in others?
They just probably believed what they were doing was the right thing.
Well, yeah.
Well, nothing more than that.
Well, yeah, and I ask, where's the mentality in that, though? Because, again, how well Tennessee is handled in this contradicts how certain other ancestors will be treated, and again, just how the story goes in general later on.
Ah, spiders.
At least they're cartoony spiders. Oh, yeah,
yes, also Whackman properly.
But yeah, I mean, I'll say this. If there's one thing I would have changed in this game, is if you're not going to give Sly, abilities from each of these guys for each level, maybe have the ability to bring them along. Like, granted, yeah, I know some can only do what certains can do, but given how the story goes on later, the team would have been better off just bringing the ancestors along for the ride and then sending them home when the whole venture is over.
There's also the weird, okay, not connecting necessarily to what you just said, Jova, but there's technically also the fact that I mentioned for the third game. The fact that the cane design is clearly not consistent between each ancestor, and yet the third game did make a point in mentioning how the cane was like one in a lifetime that was passed between the generations and just modified on that. But the way it looks here makes no sense. Mind you, I argue, but that's a problem of the third game in how they describe it, because I found it implausible even there.
Although
so here instead decided to ditch the idea in order to give more personality to the ancestors is fine by me.
I do think, though, with that point you brought up, that they should have at least have addressed it and said, oh, no, that was just a trick that we did to fool people into that, because, well, here, let's be honest, if that were the case, then Sly should technically have lost his cane as early as the first time-traveling level, because, you know,
it's not even that,
cane was stolen.
That actually is an actual point, but it's not even that. Remember, Dr. M did try to create counterfeit, not counterfeit, but, you know, copies of the cane in order to open the vault for himself, and surprisingly didn't work. So, again, the first game did try to make it a proper plot point, but again, I just even couldn't see it back there.
Now, I will say this, though. Whether or not we consider it a fault of the third game, I do feel that the fourth game should at least do a proper job to, if it's not going to follow up on that, explain why all of a sudden this is not the case. Like, because, okay, maybe we could have said that, oh, the cave wasn't made until this point, except no, we know it was at the very least available as early as the likes of Tennessee Cooper.
Yikes. Also, there's another piece of what I did mention a couple of parts ago about the team wanted to do their own thing. There's already a bit of disconnect with the cutscenes, the animated cutscenes, and what actually happens in the game, which is something that, to be fair, was already present in the original trilogy, so it's not something that, you know, I will condemn it too much. But Tennessee is clearly always seen with a particular, like, smaller gun, or sometimes two. But as the story said, we just had the convenient excuse of having upgraded to a traditional Winchester, like like rifle, in order to having a design that was more similar to the other canes. Again, this is clearly something that the team preferred to do rather than to sticking with what the design of the character was. And sadly, it's not going to even be the last time, technically.
Like, okay, and you know what, to give them credit, at the very least they do explain why he's not using two guns. He upgraded. So, again, stuff like that I'm fine with, but they don't explain the inconsistency with the cane here. Like, okay, on the stance of developers, or heck, creators in general who want to do their own thing, here's the thing. When it comes to cartoony platformers like Sly, you could arguably make any platformer game with the gameplay of Sly, just with, you know, a different look or whatnot, and people may not bat an eye. When people want a new Sly game, chances are they definitely care about the character. Oh, they definitely care about the gameplay as well, but the main appeal is, well, the story and characters apply to it. Sly Cooper is one of those franchises that was made in the era where people were starting to care more about lore and story. Like, you know, that's not to say that Crash didn't have it going for him, but with the original Crash trilogy, you can just as easily separate the story from the gameplay and you'll get not as much a difference in the experience, as say compared to something like Sly Cooper, where the story was very integral to the, well, yeah, to the games and whatnot. So, if the story and plots aren't that interesting or whatnot, we've got a bit of an issue. So, my question is, if you want to make it that different, why are you making it part of this franchise if you don't care? Surprise!
Also, foreshadowing for something that Toothpick can do, but that's not for now. Also, yeah, so the Tennessee gets his own victory jingle, if I recall correctly. Yep. So much like with Rajan, we need to bug it.
Our best bet is to plant a bug. Needless to say, we must remain undetected. Conveniently, I discovered they're looking for a new bartender.
You know, I'm looking forward to one of these scenes where they're talking to each other like this, but then they're discovered because they're too freaking loud.
Your mustache looks bigger. What have you been feeding it?
Pay attention, Sly. You'll need to enter through that window.
Oh, so it's a caterpillar then.
Meanwhile, I'll have the goons inside so sugared up they'll be seeing double until they crash.
Yes, sugar. That's what you'll be putting in their drinks.
Again, sarsaparilla, which again, but I have a bit of a trivia that we'll mention on.
That mustache all the time.
Yes, he's gone.
Jealousy is such an ugly emotion, Sly.
You wish you had a mustache.
Like that, yeah.
I mean, he's got a face full of fur. He could just shave a little, make a mustache out of it.
I guess it just doesn't work in this universe. But
oh boy!
Fun fact: as a kid, I always read and seen the Smurfs, you know, comics and TV series and a cartoon, and they were talking a lot about sarsaparilla. I thought it was actually a fictional kind of thing until I discovered it was an actual plant that can be distilled. There we go. So, for the time being, Bentley will need to play a minigame in order to, I guess, intoxicate the customers of a bar. Yeah, this is pretty standard stuff. If you play the game, I can't think of a specific example, but it's the classic kind of game where a customer is asking a specific unit and you need to send the precise amount to them before they can get satisfied. You actually get a trophy if you manage to do it perfectly without spilling a single drink.
Oh my god, that's the sound effect from Crash Bash.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's wow.
That's a common sound effect.
Yeah.
It's public domain.
Oh, I think it's in Pokemon Masters Eve.
Of course, as it goes on, there are more customers popping up and, you know, sometimes requiring more at once. So it's not super easy, and it's the only one like this in the entire game. But it's still relatively doable. It's more of a case where, you know, even if you fail, the more you play, the more you get used to it.
The trick is to remember the order of which they appear and whatnot, so you know which one is a better priority.
Well, I mean, there is like a countdown on each of their bubbles there.
That's my point. Like, I mean...
Also, yeah, while most of them are knocked out, some of them are still around, so we need to stick to the upper places. Although our Peter McConnell delights us with some classic jingles, I guess.
A honky-tonky piano piece. Nice.
That's okay. Yeah, this is one of my favorite things in this game so far. In addition to the music being being a lot more crisp and clear and not MIDI because you're on the PS3 this time, it's also a lot more varied. All the different locations in time you go to.
I'd say for the most part it works out in this game's favor.
You know what they say? Don't shoot the player. I think it's called like that. No. Okay, I don't know how it works in English, but a common thing for Western stuff, at least that's original in my country, is that don't shoot on the piano player. There we go.
Shoot anybody.
Well, it's more of a case of if a brawl gets, you know, starts in the saloon bar, you know, remember to not shoot the piano player because he most likely not have done anything wrong. Also, you hear a sneak peek of something, of a particular track which you also use later on in Chapter 4, which actually got selected to be remixed in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Considering it was released around the same time of this game, it was 2012 if I recall correctly, they used as a song pieces stuff from this game rather than the original trilogy, which is fine. I mean, again, the composer is the same from 2 and 3 anyway, so might as well. And some tracks are actually remixed from the previous titles, so there's not much of a difference. Ah, fuck.
Naughty.
Tusk.
Silence permeates through the group as we watch tensely.
He's lining up there along the glowing neon.
Soon we see the Cooper in, well, not quite his natural habitat.
Not really.
Or is it, since technically an ancestor of his did inhabit this place?
There we go, we just need to gently spin the RC car and we have another section with it.
Okay,
Thankfully this time we don't really need these guys, we just can have to, you know, stay away from the lasers.
You gotta love those bad guys who actually
were
make
gonna
sure
say,
to booby.
unfortunately, it uses a bloody 6-axis.
You know, you gotta love those bad guys who actually do think to booby trap the air vents.
You're never too sure, Jova. Also, how many ships have you lost in this?
Surprised none of the patrons have gone bankrupt.
I get the idea that Toothpick makes sure that the things is stacked in his favor.
I see there's a fork in the road, interestingly enough.
Well, there are no particular secrets in this one, you just need to take the one you prefer.
Yep.
So there is, you know, a bit of a nice touch without having you to worry too much. Although if I recall correctly, there might be a mask in here somewhere. I forgot, to be honest. Alright, we should be close enough. Yes.
Alright, listen up. My partner's got an ace up his sleeve, and we're about to go all in. This trump card's going to crush Cooper and the rest of his clean jumping gang. We're going to learn a mule dog yank a rattlesnake's tail, lest you're looking to get bit. Then we are going to finish loading up the train and haul
Oh, sounds like our climax is gonna take place on a train.
Of course.
Wonderful.
Again, have you seen Back to the Future Part 3?
Yes. Oh!
Oops. You just shot me in the face! Oh, that's the thing about Toothpick, if he loses temper, he grows up a bit. Well, the important stuff is that we bug the office, so there is that. And yeah, so much like with Rajan, if you stay in the hideout, you can actually listen to some of his ramblings. And Carmelita is here. Why are you? What are you doing here?
She's still a lady, unless you're implying you know something, Bentley.
Not just
That's
that.
no lady, that's a bitch.
It's not even that. Again, compared to the previous trilogy, where she might have been captured like once by clockwork, you expect to see Carmelita impaired a lot in this game.
Oh, so she's elite.
You know,
Sure.
Tio, I wish that was the worst thing about her in this game, but then there's the actual story bits of her.
Again, I normally don't really harp on this kind of stuff, but whoever Sanzaru had pretty much of a hard-on Carmelita, they completely fucked up most of her characterization as a result.
Not only that,
not even just on an appearance level.
And not only that, they expect us to agree with her apparently, despite that.
Well, we aren't at that point yet. So now we are having another escort mission. This time we have to essentially clean the path. There you go. Because the wagon that Carmelita is being put on, is set to go against explosives.
Stinking cowards! Afraid to untie me and fight like men? I swear when I get out of this...
No sense fretting about that little lady.
And now she has okay, I know. The name Carmelita normally is associated with Hispanic, so it's nice she has an Hispanic accent now.
Yeah.
It's a bit interesting since she didn't have that in the other games.
No, remember, apparently, according to the trivias in the second game, she was kind of directed to sound a bit like Jessica Alba for some reason.
As for the Carmelita thing, it doesn't help that once again, the beginning of this game feels so rushed, like we get little to no context on how Sly and Carmelita's lives have been in between games. Like, I don't even know, like, has anything changed? Like, I don't know, the game never bothered to tell us.
Like, that's another thing, honestly. Again, Sly decided that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with this woman, so much that he was willing up to give his life in crime, which, again, that already got spat in the face at the start of his story with him wanting to get back in because he had an itch that was never mentioned before.
It's like we're missing, like, several chapters in between.
Like, again, this is the kind of story where, well, okay, to be fair, there are some problems with the story that even if we did have the context with, still would not salvage it, but yeah, what you mentioned is definitely an example where we needed more context, but I'm sorry to admit that the story will not provide it. Again, not only that, but Carmelita being here is kind of an asshole, not gonna lie, because, you know...
We're gonna get an explanation on how she got here, I think, at the end of either at the end of this bit or at the end of the part. But it's still like you said, it's kind of like convenient.
Not only that, but this is kind of frustrating because the villains would pretty much have done themselves in, but no, we have to help them through because Carmelita, like, ugh. It's the issue with the story having to pull out all these contrivances for stuff to happen. Like, a lot of what develops does not feel natural plot-wise, and as an extent, sometimes feels like, oh, this gameplay segment is literally here just for that. Again, maybe back in, like, earlier video game standards this would have been fine, but by, you know, near the end of the 7th gen? No. That's a dope.
Also, there's Clockwork right there. I sadly couldn't. Oh, I think I'm about to. There you go.
It's weird how they put him in a place where you can look at him, but you pretty much are guaranteed to get hit while doing it.
Okay, to be fair, that's like the only case. In the others, it's more just like but I do agree. It's weird that they put this one. You know, they put it for this kind of Easter egg. Only something that you can notice without using the binocular cone. Okay, it's an escort mission. Again, if you have used the bullet time, as Joe mentioned, it's not even that too much of a biggie, but you always need to be quick on your feet.
Like I said,
because again, you might realize, you might thinking, oh, the wagon, you know, it's still gonna take some time, but then you realize, oh shit, it's already here.
Yeah, like I said, Sly Cooper does definitely make this level worth it, even on the escort missions where he plays in, because again, he is insanely fun to play as, which again, kind of makes me wish that they had let the ancestors come along if, you know, they weren't really going to add that much to the gang here and there. And again, given how things end up later, they might as well have brought them along.
To meet you, ma'am. Why, I'm Tennessee Kid.
Don't tell me. You're a Cooper, right?
How did you manage to untie yourself?
Bentley told me you...
Stop calling me ma'am. The name's Inspector Fox. Wait, Bentley's here?
Well, looks like they're right behind us.
Oh boy, here we go.
I'm glad you're okay.
Hey there.
That conniving little...
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, we got to have a villain here.
Thank God he's here to interrupt that. Because I really don't like Sly and Carmelita's interactions in this game.
Of course. You feeling neighborly? You could just turn yourselves in.
As much as I like the idea of Sly in a cell, nobody kidnaps Inspector Carmelita Fox and gets away with it.
I reckon that also includes tying her to a runaway stage.
Watch it. I'm in no mood for smart remarks. Now, are you ready for another mission, Tennessee?
That's not what the sub said.
I surely am.
Who cares? They didn't care about the subs anyway.
I forgot, who voices Carmelita in this game?
Grey Delisle, Grey Griffin, aka the voice actor of Daphne,
So
and Azula.
Okay.
Did she just skip over that word for some reason?
That's the thing, dude. It happens kind of like a bit all over the place in the games. Like, at the idea there was a bit of script disconnect between the one given to the voice actors and the one of the final product.
I guess that happened in the other games as well, so
Does text for games get added after?
Sorry, Shiri?
Does text for games get added after the voice lines are recorded, or
usually after?
Yeah. Like I said, if there's a script change, there is this kind of possibility. Yeah.
It's sad, but I actually...
Yeah, no, now Tennessee.
It's sad, but I actually like his interactions with Carmelita better than the actual Sly Cooper and Carmelita in this game.
Alright!
Okay, let's go.
Now, for this mission is essentially a tag team, because when you're on the raft, you will have to actually control Carmelita, much like Miss Type 3. She has a trusty shock pistol. While instead there will be times where you need to control Tennessee in order to unlock the path.
Carmelita's gameplay in this game is
pretty much the same, Jova. Not much has changed, to be honest. If anything, some bullets, actually type of different shock bullets, have been added for her to purchase on Thief.net later on.
Which is kind of ironic, given that, you know, she's not a thief. But I digress. That said, though,
it's not even that. The punchline of this instead is the fact that she kind of also was a bit hyped up for the marketing and everything, but the actual official missions where you can control her can be counted on one hand.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was getting at. It's hard for me to gauge how good her gameplay is compared to the original because, well, you barely get to play as her in this game, which is weird.
Again, to be fair, even in Sly 3, you didn't play as much to her. But this game kind of makes it kind of a point where she has to stick closer to the gang from now till the rest of the game. So
it's a weird case. It's also a bit of complaint some people have had with how some people do feel that also, you know, the dispersal of how much you get to play as each character doesn't feel as balanced as it did in previous games. That's not to say that, you know, most of it wasn't Sly, of course, but it felt like there was a bit of a better divide, even when they were adding on additional characters in Sly Cooper 3. Like here, okay, let's be fair, a lot of people consider the Cooper ancestors merely an extension of Sly, because they're pretty much Sly plus a special power-up here and there. So, counting them all as Cooper, you pretty much play as them, like, I'm gonna say 85% of the game, to be generous here. Whereas with Murray and Bentley, not nearly as much as in previous games. It's
okay, that one I kind of disagree with, because again, you're counting the assessor just as much as Sly. But also, then again, even in the... again, it's probably also wanting to be a bit of a throwback to the first game where most of the action was given to just by Sly. Murray was only controllable for the vehicle, some vehicle segment, and Bentley for one hacking section in the entire game.
Well, if that's
but even still, I do believe that as a whole, it's still relatively balanced. The only major thing omitted is just the extra members from 3 who don't return, which instead are replaced by the ancestor. But the thing that could be argued there is how much screen time does each ancestor get, because compared to Ryorichi, Tennessee gets a lot more screen time, for example.
Oh, definitely. But that's the thing, though, too. It's like, well, if their mentality was to do a throwback to Sly Cooper 1, then by that logic, they shouldn't even bother having Murray as playable. What were you doing there?
I missed the actual timing.
You wanted to swim.
Shiroi, Tennessee gives me the vibe of someone who has never taken a bath in his life.
Oh, dang. But,
the water disintegrated him?
Yeah, let's go with that.
But, yeah, like I said, though, the balancing isn't the worst, but I can see why a few people did complain about it, because it doesn't, well, let's be honest, the spotlight does not feel as much on the other characters as much as it could be. Like, you know, for all intents and purposes, Bentley and Murray's respective arcs, they went over the course of the entire game. In this game, each of their respective arcs are pretty much confined to a chapter. That is pretty much it, which is definitely a downgrade. And it's not even like they're giving all the other ancestors their own arcs and whatnot. No. I mean, the ancestors are cool to play as, but it's not like they have these dedicated story arcs or anything. And to think of it, Sly himself doesn't really get an arc until more towards the end game in this game. He could have had more of an arc, but, well, the writers wasted it on shenanigans between him and Carmelita, which I do not like, but more on that later.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, you said it enough times, Joe, but I think it's after SCWRM as the game goes on.
It bears repeating how much it comes up with.
If there are any more, that is, because
I didn't hear you, Joe, but could you repeat?
Yeah. Because that's the thing sometimes. I've noticed in a few pieces of media in general, that sometimes they start to do something and then they just don't do it at all ever again.
It happens, Dweebs. It happens.
Which kind of leads me to wonder why you do it in the first place.
Well, again, Dweebs, it doesn't happen, you know, by intention or will, but just by accident.
Well, sometimes it does happen by intention.
Well, I'm talking specifically, Java, to something that it's set up and say, I will talk about this later, but then it actually doesn't happen.
One has to wonder, though, if people are just hoping for a sequel to set that up, and which case...
No, I'm not talking about the actual game doing that, Java.
Oh, Stephen Moffat took the mickey out of that trope when he did Curse of Fatal Death.
Was that one of his good things?
It was a spoof of Doctor Who that he wrote for Comic Relief back in 1999.
The one with Rowan Atkinson.
So was it good?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's actually
pretty fun.
Good.
The problem, Job, was simply put, later on when he actually got hired for Doctor Who, Moffat essentially became the thing that he parodied with that.
Wait, hold on.
Okay, let me stress. Moffat did write episodes for the Russell T Davies era. I think Tio's referring to when Moffat was the showrunner.
That is some irony, though. The guy who started off doing a parody, taking the mickey out of Doctor Who, would eventually become a Doctor Who writer, and arguably one of the more infamous ones from what I've heard from the fan base.
Okay, here's the thing on how Moffat works. He always plays up for the rule of cool, and sometimes he forgoes not only just continuity, but also common sense for that.
Oh dear.
Like, without spoiling too much, one particular thing that happens when people shake their heads a lot is that he takes the enemy of the Weeping Angels, fantastic enemy introduced in the 10th era.
He created, by the way.
Yeah, and there's an entire episode where they have an entire scheme. They set up an entire scheme where they can overcome Manhattan, which includes in the climax a Weeping Angel essentially possessing the Statue of Liberty. It's dumb. It's not even that, it's just dumb for the sake of being cool.
Well, I mean, to be honest, Tio is not as bad as what happened to Brigadier.
I thought you were going to say Twin Dilemma.
Well, okay, there's also that too. You're referring to...
It was an episode where... It was an episode where there was a certain event where it turns out that whenever anyone in the Doctor Who universe dies, they get turned into Cybermen, including some of the Doctor's companions.
Yeah, okay. It's from the Capaldi era, sadly. It was also the time
the
where they wanted to...
That's one of the more recent
which is actually...
ones.
It's okay, I generally like it, but it has some stinkers like that.
Up.
But I will tell more about this another time to be more into what was said, because now we have to factually free Sly and the others.
It's funny, Jibs, because the current Doctor is where I hear a lot of people gave up.
I'm a maverick. I gave up before that.
Before it was cool to do.
You go on. I'll stay here and
she didn't say the name, Sabza. Are you giving up or something?
Yeah, speaking of giving up.
Again, they never tried with the subs in the first place.
Okay, Carmelita, try.
Why start now, you know?
That's one thing. That's one thing Sans renailed from the other games. Lack of subtitle consistency.
It's not even that, you know, it's not even the fact that, like what Pedro also mentioned, the fact that the subs do not appear on a consistent level, you know, depending on the cutscenes that they are in. It's also the fact that when the subs actually do appear, they do not reflect at, you know, 100% what the voice actors are saying, which you'd think they would do that.
It's like one of those Jean-Luc Godard films with those really basic English subtitles for the film.
Also, too, it looks like you're calling the cops with that red-blue versus going on there.
That's kind of the idea of you being alarmed, you in the state of alarm, which is pretty neat, I won't lie.
There was also a moment in Verifense Rev where I remember what Keiji-Tang was saying and what Fang's dialogue was saying in the script also was different.
So yeah,
I guess it happens a lot.
Carmelita, are you all right?
I am. No thanks to you. I should leave you in that cage after what you pulled.
Not the time.
Okay. Let me just sum up their relationship.
Oh, no, Carmelita, we're not doing this. Please, no.
Really, Carmelita? Real mature.
Carmelita, I know.
Not just that, the whole we're our own grandpas, we're not doing that, sorry.
So, here's the problem I have with this. Their relationship will pretty much be Carmelita going, "You lied to me, and you don't deserve me," and all this or that.
And I'm like, you first, lady.
Exactly, here's my biggest problem. You lied too, bitch. But guess what? She never gets called out for it. Not once.
Sorry.
Like, let's not forget, she was technically the one who lied. Well, okay, they technically lied at the same time, but still, though. The game never addresses the fact that Carmelita lied just as much too, and probably obstructed justice by, you know, not arresting Cooper right there and then when she had the chance. But no, I guess it's because either somebody on the writing team had a crush on Carmelita, or it's one of those strong female empowerment things where the woman is always right bits. So...
Okay, no, for all intents and purposes, I don't really think they were going for that. If anything, again, they went through the opposite direction, which is not really great either.
Like I said, that's one of the possible options too. And I will say this, it does feel like there's a tinge of that. That said, I will agree it's probably not the leading reason, and probably just the dev team was simping for Carmelita, but it's so annoying with how much this will recur in the plot here, and she never gets called out for it.
Anyway, tune in for the next part, where we hopefully reach an understanding with Carmelita, hopefully.
Something tells me that's not going to happen.
Well, at least a truce, and try to disrupt the Toothpick's operation. See ya.
See you next time.